While live performances have always left me in awe, I have always wondered how those performers manage to be so on point every time, only to realize that nothing in this world is really perfect. I mean, there have been several instances where live performances took a nosedive into the realm of comedic catastrophe. They really do have a way of keeping us on the edge of our seats. Today, we're diving into the wild and unpredictable world of live performances. Get ready to cringe, laugh, and maybe even sympathize as I show you the 20 performances that went completely off the rails when the spotlight was on. But hey, isn't that what makes live entertainment so thrilling? Let's jump right in. Madonna. It is pretty normal for a newbie to get nervous and make a mess on stage, but when it comes to the queen of pop Madonna, the bar is set pretty high. While Madonna may be one of the most iconic musicians of all time, she isn't safe from mistakes that can turn into embarrassing moments. I mean, luck can work in strange ways, and even Madonna can end up with an awkward moment while performing live. Imagine gearing up to see Madonna live, only to end up with an underwhelming experience that will only be remembered for all the wrong reasons. During her performance at the 35th Brit Awards, Madonna and her team of talented performers were prepared to set the stage on fire with a rendition of one of Madonna's most famous songs, Living for Love. While the sentiment may be great, it seems like there were certain mishaps that the team were not thoroughly prepared for. Sitting in the crowd, everyone was embracing Madonna's iconic glory as she climbed the staircase in a magnificent cape. But little did she know the steps weren't going to lead to the massive success that she was aiming for. That cape and those stairs collectively turned into a flight of embarrassment as she stumbled across the staircase and fell on the stage. But Madonna is known as the Queen of Pop for all the right reasons. She didn't let the fall stop her. Rising from her fall, Madonna climbed to glory, embracing the fall and continuing to deliver yet another iconic performance. Mario Kamiya. Honestly, failed music performances might not be as embarrassing as failed magic tricks. Despite years of practicing, magic tricks will always be at risk of failing, which is exactly what happened with Mario Kamiya. The #1 rule of any magic trick? Never reveal your secret. However, it seems like Mario Kamiya did not get the memo. After tying himself to a plank of wood and then asking his assistant to put a red cloth over his face, Kamiya was supposed to deceive the audience by making them believe that he had freed himself on his own. However, in the process of unlocking himself, he only ended up locking his own assistant's hand, and showing the audience that it was clearly the assistant who had freed him in the first place. But well, the guy did laugh it off. Karate act. In Sri Lanka's Got Talent, a talented young man and his team of karate fighters auditioned for their spot on the show. But the problem was, no one really knew what kind of karate these guys were doing. While the man sat on top of slabs of wood and held his arms out, the group members kept breaking slabs of wood on his arms, making the judges and audience witness his incredible strength. For the next part of the act, the man himself took a slab of wood and slammed it on his head. Doesn't sound like such a good idea to just randomly hit yourself on the head, does it? But it looked like this man didn't know any better, and as soon as he slammed the wood on his head, he ended up falling on the ground, almost passing out. However, determined to prove his strength, he managed to get up, limping towards another pile of wood to smash it with his hands. At this point, the judges had to intervene and put a pause to his madness before he ended up doing more stupid things on stage. Katy Perry and the Backpack Kid. Katy Perry is known for her style. She thinks out of the box, I get it. But this one has to be her most embarrassing performance ever. As it is, Katy Perry was busy busting moves that made her look like she was extremely out of place, but that's not where it ends. Things really took a turn when she decided to surprise her fans with the Backpack Kid. Yes, you heard that right. While jumping on the bandwagon of the famous floss dance trend, Katy Perry decided to invite the Backpack Kid, who happens to be the originator of the floss dance. That is like inviting an Italian to taste your marinara sauce. You have to be really confident in what you're doing if you are going to invite the originator. Well, as anyone would expect, the Backpack Kid ended up stealing the show, making Katy Perry look like nothing but an ordinary musician who cannot dance to save her own life. Also, the performance looked weird, with a kid dancing between a bunch of adults dressed awkwardly. 3G. Another performance at America's Got Talent that could have been incredible, but ended up taking a nosedive. We all have bad days, but I bet none could beat theirs. What started with a trio of 3 girls performing a very exquisite acrobatic dance routine and being perfectly synced ended up in a disaster. As the performance started, the girls seemed to be pretty confident in their act. That's the kind of confidence one gets with years of experience. However, when the act was at its peak and the girls were trying to balance each other and form a pyramid of sorts, the girl at the top lost her balance, causing the whole pyramid to collapse, with the girls falling on top of each other. But that's not even the worst part. They tried again because, obviously, how could it go wrong? But probably luck wasn't on their side that day, and they failed yet once again. Ouch. I'm sure that must have hurt. Miley Cyrus and Robin Thicke. Well, when we are talking about live performances that went wrong, Miley Cyrus is definitely one of the first few names that would pop into anyone's mind. Known for her controversial performances and always getting attention for doing something out of the ordinary, it is no surprise that this performance is even on this list. During the 30th MTV Music Video Awards in 2013, Miley Cyrus partnered up with Robin Thicke, and the duo decided to perform their song Blurred Lines. If you're a fan of Miley Cyrus, I am sure even you were embarrassed because of what she did there. It is safe to say that their performance left quite a scarring imprint on many young minds. Miley and Robin Thicke's performance went viral, however, it was for all the wrong reasons. From Miley, twerking from the minute she entered the stage, to rubbing her foam finger in places that no one wanted to see on TV, the performance was a bit too much for anyone who was watching it. And as if that wasn't enough, it seemed like Robin Thicke was also going in the same direction as he actually let Cyrus grind on him. On stage. In front of thousands of people. Well, in her defense, Miley Cyrus said that she believed overly sexualized performances had become the standard for her, so she did what she thought the people were expecting from her. Girl, chill. I bet no one wanted to see that. Honestly, it was kind of sad to see the former Disney star, who used to be the apple of everyone's eyes, delivering a highly inappropriate performance and then justifying it too. Duo Transcend. We have all heard of performances going downhill, but this one got everyone shocked for a second, but not in a good way. This duo really took things to another level as they performed one of the most daring and dangerous performances the show has ever witnessed. But just like the 3G, they also missed one single stunt. While many people aim to set the stage on a metaphorical fire, this duo decided to create a ring of fire on the stage, putting it on fire quite literally. What's next? Well, the two decided to do a trapeze in mid-air, hanging right above this ring of fire they had created on the stage. While the two seemed to be quite in sync and were delivering a performance that had everyone on the edge of their seats. There came a part where the male performer, Tice, blindfolded himself. I know what you're thinking. Damn, Tice, why would you blindfold yourself while hanging in the air in the middle of a ring of fire? Because I thought the same. I wish he had the same thought process because the outcome wasn't great. Now, Tice was supposed to hold on to Mary by her feet, but owing to his lack of vision, both literal and metaphorical, Mary ended up slipping from Tice's hands. Yes, she landed right in the middle of the ring of fire. But thankfully, they weren't suspended too high, and Mary did not land on the fire. She was safe and sound, but the couple definitely made everyone's hearts skip a beat. Lana Del Rey. Who doesn't love Lana Del Rey's music? From delivering every note on the key to beautiful songwriting, Rey has really made her mark in the music industry. And like every other singer, Lana Del Rey was also working to create some hype for her upcoming album. As a result, she made the bold choice of performing one of the songs from her upcoming albums in an episode of SNL. Mind you, this is definitely a very tricky thing to do, and not many stars end up performing their songs live before they release them. Why, you might ask? Well, once you see what happened with Lana Del Rey's performance, you will understand why it is a better idea to just release your album and not sing it live beforehand. Keeping her confidence in her cinematic and highly emotive musical abilities, Lana started singing her song. However, the response that she received was, oh well, underwhelming does not even begin to describe what it looked like. The audience sat in silence while Lana Del Rey continued to sing in her smoky voice, receiving neither any applause nor igniting any type of interest amongst the audience. Oh, and don't even talk about her vocals while singing live. Blue jeans and video games might have worked wonders for Del Rey and her smoky voice, but I'm sure this performance must have made her question a lot of things. Maybe even her own career choices. Can you imagine sitting in the crowd and waiting for Lana Del Rey to perform, just for it to end up in a disaster? I wonder if she'll ever try to do that again. Pedro Volta. America and Sri Lanka's Got Talent are not the only ones where people end up putting their lives at risk just for the sake of securing a spot on the show. In Spain's Got Talent, Pedro Volta, a talented young man who wanted to show his incredible underwater skills, decided to do an incredibly complicated routine. So this guy decided to get locked in a glass box full of water and was then supposed to manage to unlock it himself. I'm sure Pedro must have practiced beforehand, but little did he know his act could actually risk his own life. Drowning in front of a big crowd isn't ideal after all. Apparently, after getting in the box, he struggled to unlock himself and finally gave up with 1.5 minutes still left on the timer. Pedro ended up signaling for help, after which the rescue team had to rush in to get him out of the box, after which he could be seen shivering and gasping for air, clearly requiring serious medical attention. Now my question is, why do you even try to do that? Do people not love their life? Mariah Carey. When the clock strikes 12 on New Year's Eve, most of us have our eyes glued to Dick Clark's New Year's Rockin' Eve. I mean, no one can do New Year's Eve better than Dick Clark himself, right? But there have been some instances on that show as well. Do you remember Queen Mariah Carey messing up one of her live performances? I can say without a doubt that my bubble of perfection had really burst, and the magic of New Year's Eve seemed a little less credible that night. Boy, was that a disaster! Back in 2016, at Dick Clark's New Year's Rockin' Eve, Mariah Carey was in the lineup, cued to perform for the audience. But as her turn came, and she started singing, it was clear that it wasn't going to be Mariah Carey's night. Not only was her performance unappealing, but the New York Post even published an article discussing how Carey had failed to deliver even a single note throughout her entire performance. Honestly, if I had been in her place, that article would have been the end of my career, never returning to the stage again. And if that was not embarrassing enough, the article was headlined, "Mariah Closes 2016 with Disastrous NYE Performance." Well, imagine feeling bad about a performance and then reading the New York Post referring to it as disastrous. That's a rough start to a new year. Not only was she unable to sing in key, but Mariah remained determined to finish her performance and actually prolonged it to the point of awkwardness. But like the legend that she is, she eventually managed to make a stunning comeback and rocked the stage at Dick Clark's 2017 New Year's Eve's Rockin' Party. Took a whole year to correct that mistake. Doll dancers. For this one, I really don't have words to explain how bad it was. 2 dancers dressed up as dolls for a performance? Doesn't sound too bad. But the kind of dance these 2 did have everyone questioning their sanity. Not only was it underwhelming, but it was actually horrendous. And the scenes after the performance weren't very cute either. While initially it seemed like a bad attempt at a comedic dance, when the judges finally questioned the performers on what exactly went wrong, the 2 started throwing punches at each other. Leaving no room for the judges to give their opinions, the 2 ended up calling each other out on their terrible performance. Being self-aware is good, but my only question is, why? Why'd you ever try to perform something you have no idea about? Well, it turns out it wasn't real. The 2 women were actually wrestlers in real life and were trying to prank the judges. But that performance traumatized me for real, though. Eddie Money. Eddie Money, famous for his raspy voice and hit songs, made a name for himself in the 70s and 80s. 2 of his most popular songs, 2 Tickets to Paradise and Take Me Home Tonight, were even nominated for a Grammy. But like Lana Del Rey, this amazing singer also had a hard time singing live on SNL. Making his much-awaited appearance in SNL on March 18, 1978, Eddie seemed to be a little off track. While he was able to perform with the same charming energy, there was something about his voice that night that did not sit well with the audience. In my opinion, he sounded a bit funny for some reason. And I ain't the only one who thinks something was wrong there. Even his fans described it as if Eddie needed a good throat clearing before he started singing. Well, I know one thing for sure. It must have been a ride of embarrassment for Money that night. SNL can be a villain at times. Ryan Stock. In an attempt to wow the judges and the audience at America's Got Talent, Ryan Stock and his assistant set up the stage to deliver their performance. After inserting multiple swords in his mouth and down his throat and then removing them in the most harmless manner, Ryan proceeded to stick the stand of a lamp in his mouth. If this wasn't dangerous enough, he also covered the stand with a target sticker. But that's where things went wrong. His assistant was supposed to fire an arrow at the target. Mind you, the arrow was on fire, but unfortunately she missed the target and ended up shooting Ryan, who immediately called off the performance. Well, that is one way to set the stage on fire. The Rolling Stones. Now let's talk about the Rolling Stones. Yes, you heard right, even the Rolling Stones have had their bad days. And yet again, it's SNL who did them dirty. It is no surprise that the Rolling Stones were invited to set the stage on fire at SNL back in 1978. The band had queued up 3 songs for their performance: Shattered, Beast of Burden, and Respectable. Starting with an incredible delivery of Shattered, the band moved on to singing the Beast of Burden. And well, things didn't go as expected. It was like the nervousness of singing on SNL really got to the band's shoulders, since it only went downhill from there. On an ordinary day, Mick Jagger would have been the benchmark against whom talented artists would compare themselves. But on this fateful day, Jagger sounded completely flat, like someone who had no knowledge of singing. While the band tried their best to make up for his awful voice through their flamboyant movements, it was evident that there was no coming back in this performance. Iggy Azalea. The girl who claimed fame through her hit song Fancy might not have had the fanciest performance on stage this time. Usually known for her epic dance moves and impeccable stage presence, Iggy ended up making a blunder that was not completely in line with her brand this time. Recently, after Iggy rose to fame, A video of her freestyling at the 23rd Splash Festival resurfaced, leaving quite a big stain on her reputation and credibility. If you were at the 23rd Splash Festival, you might have an idea of what we are talking about. From slaying the performance with her freestyle rap to claiming to be a runaway slave master, Iggy really set the stage for her downfall. Imagine claiming to be a slave master in a crowd like that. In this day and age, that's not even a sassy joke, honestly. Naturally, Iggy ended up receiving a lot of backlash and became the center of controversy. Being a white woman in hip-hop and then using the topic of slavery to further show the leverage that you have, one has to admit Iggy Azalea sure has some guts. Not so fancy this time, right? Mariah Carey, again. Yes, we have Mariah Carey on our list yet again. Yes, our girl has had quite a few mishaps. Known for her melodious voice and her hit song, All I Want for Christmas Is You, it seems like both these assets did not work well for Mariah on this unfortunate day. While performing the song on stage, it seemed like Mariah Carey was trying to pull off an extremely expensive joke since she sounded nothing like herself. Not only was she out of tune, but her voice sounded terrible.
Make my wish come true. I'm just gonna keep on waiting.
Throughout the performance, it felt like the vocal fairy whom we have all grown to admire so much had lost her actual voice. Maybe buying a new throat instead of a new coat would have been nice. Right, Mariah? Red Hot Chili Peppers. Just like their name suggests, there's no doubt that Red Hot Chili Peppers was one of the hottest bands of their time. Owing to their incredible stage presence and their impeccable talent, the band was invited to perform at SNL twice. In their 1992 show, which happened to be their first performance on SNL, the band delivered a completely off-brand performance. Despite all the band members trying to give it their best shot, there was no hope for them. The reason? The lead guitarist, John Frusciante. The guy had to be on something that day. Not only did Frusciante's slipshot set the band up for failure, but his persistent out-of-tune guitar just made things progressively worse. While this could simply be an accident, everyone knew that at the time, John was going through severe substance abuse problems. And that was not an accident. He was, in fact, under the influence. As per the reports, he was not at all fond of the fame he was getting and even tried to isolate himself from the band completely, defying physics. This performer, defying the law of physics, only seemed unstoppable as he proceeded to wow the audience with his skills. The performer went on to climb a ladder with no support and then opted to hula hoop at the top of the ladder. Doesn't sound like a very smart idea, does it? Well, to nobody's surprise, the act ended with a massive disaster as the performer fell through the ladder. To everyone's surprise, though, and of course his good luck, that fall didn't turn out to be fatal. Don't mess with physics. I hope he learned his lesson. Troye Sivan. You all probably remember Troye Sivan as the cute little boy who wrote a song for TFIOS, but many actually remember him as the wet lizard guy from SNL. The world is harsh, not gonna lie. In 2018, Troye Sivan performed at SNL, and his performance garnered some very negative reviews. While some fans were confused as to why his outfit made him look like he was completely wet, others took a dig at his dancing and called him an Aaron Carter wannabe. In fact, some fans decided to be extremely brutal and even said that Troye Sivan had just made a very lame attempt at trying to look sexy. Well, that must have hurt Troy. We hope he didn't take the mean comments to his heart. The Singing Souls. This trio of friends, who referred to themselves as the Singing Souls, came to America's Got Talent with the misunderstanding that they could amaze the judges. Their confidence from the very beginning was a bit too icky. I mean, who can ever think of outselling Spice Girls? I can bet everyone had their hopes high because of how the girls were talking. But from the minute they started singing, there was absolutely no stage presence. and the three just stood adjacent to each other in the middle of the stage with no expressions whatsoever. In short, an absolutely ridiculous performance. And as if this wasn't enough to ruin the entire performance, they were instantly met by the red buzzer from Simon's side, followed by Piers and then Amanda's red buzzer. Still refusing to accept that they were not doing the most marvelous job, the trio continued to sing, with the judges making the most unamused faces.
You don't remember me, but
I know what you're thinking. Even self-proclaimed bathroom singers can do a better job than the singing souls. Oh, and just so you know, after the singing souls had sucked the soul out of the show, the lead singer actually bashed Simon and challenged him to do a better job. No, well, this group might not have the right vocal cords, but they sure had a lot of guts. Guess Simon wasn't wrong for calling them the singing trolls. And that wraps up our list of 20 performances that went wrong live. Got any ideas for what we should cover next? We're all ears. Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more entertaining content. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay tuned for more captivating moments in the world of entertainment.